this the phenomenon of telepathy in psychology is something that is my understanding, and also if Islam has any comment on this phenomenon. When it talks of many signs, I don't see this mentioned, but it's something I find very strange indeed, that after several months or so, one may get up one morning and then some idea about a friend comes into his mind, and then in no time that friend from nowhere appears. And so whether the human soul is related to that or the human mind is something
Please sit down. You can sit there if you have further questions to ask, so this will be easier for you. The point is that this telepathy is a new branch of science, according to some, and new branch of fiction, according to some others. The scientists, the true scientists, except for some exceptions, have not accepted telepathy, or in fact it is called PSP. Extrasensory perception. ESP. Also it is called paranormal perception, PNP by some. So whatever this is, when you say extrasensory and paranormal, immediately the scientists say that it is no longer a branch of science, because the very definition of science relates that whatever experiment you make, it should be discernible by the five senses. If it is extrasensory, then it has nothing to do, it's outside the domain of science. It enters either the domain of a cult or a religion, according to those scientists. According to the ESP proponents, this science is definitely a science, because they believe that we have evidence enough, and a repeatable evidence for that matter. So they pay stress to that part of the scientific, the definition of science, which speaks that if human beings are capable of repeating the experiment of some other human being in other circumstances, in other countries, then that subject which can be experimented upon could be a fit object for scientific study. And any phenomena which studies such a subject is called science. This is one definition of science. So according to this definition, they insist that paranormal phenomena is in fact a repeatable phenomena, and experiments are being now carried on, particularly in North Carolina at York University or Durham, and in many other places. In Toronto as well, there is a seat in the university. Here in Cambridge also they are experimenting on these things. So they are gradually getting established as a science. As far as the religion is concerned, Islam is very clear on it. Islam positively believes that man has been provided with some machinery to receive messages, not through the normal waves of radiation, but through some other means in which the message could be conveyed selectively to a person who has been activated before that message is given, sent to him. Now this activation of what? Unless mind is provided with some machinery by Allah, which could be a recipient of such messages, directly without the aid of radiation, then there could not be any ilham whatsoever, would not be any vision. Vision, according to Islam, is a two-sided affair. The religious term vision applies to not a subjective experience, but an experience which has another end too, a sender end and a receiving end. Telepathy also speaks of both a sender's end and a receiver's end. You think concentratedly on something, and the person who is attuned to your way of thinking, his mind is activated and he receives the message. This is telepathy. Now it has other branches as well, which is, for instance, psychokinesis, which means your energy of mind can be converted into a material force which can push things around. That is kinesis. Also, there is a branch of knowing things ahead of time. That is prophecy. But I don't remember the term for this. Anyway, this is a term. Also, parapsychology speaks of out-of-body experiences. That is OBE, which means that the soul is not limited to the body. It can so happen, and it's a shapeless thing, it can so happen that through experience or by some chance, a man is capable of projecting his soul while keeping a touch with the central body, not body, but the central life force, I should say. We call it soul, but the scientists prefer to call it life force or Atma in Indian terminology. So they say the central life force is situated somewhere. We can't define it. It can remain that contact, keep that contact, and still go abroad and project into another situation, another place at the same time, and can understand things happening there without the help of eyes or ears or sensory organs or smell or taste. This also has been experimented in that university which I spoke of, and they in fact carried very interesting experiments with kittens by making them familiarized and attached to certain people very closely and intimately, and then leaving them in some tunnels of which this man had no knowledge where that tunnel was, and then telling him to concentrate on projecting himself to a tunnel which exists somewhere in the close vicinity, and on that particular corner of the tunnel. So they, after experimenting it on many people, many subjects, they came to the conclusion that more often than chance could ever explain this away. It so happened that when such a man was concentrated trying to project his soul into that spot, the kitten came and more kitten came and sat on that spot and started making those sounds of love which kitten emit at the time when they find the vicinity of the loved ones. That particular sound. So this was repeated many a time in many forms, this happened only with those who had the capability. When they had controlled experiments, the result was different. That was a chance result. So many experiments are being made. According to Islam, man is provided with certain machinery which, if properly polished and activated, can be the recipient of Allah's messages. And those messages can be of the past, of the present, of the future. So that capability which is dormant in everybody, by religious practices and worship, becomes activated. So in a way, this has been mentioned, apart from other things, this also can be inferred from the verse of the Holy Quran where Allah tells us, Nurun ala Nur, that Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was already a light. Even if the spark from heaven had not fallen upon him, he was about to get inflamed into light. So when the spark from heaven fell, it was Nurun ala Nur. It was like light upon light. So if a man is true and well polished and is not corrupted by wrong thinking, then all these machineries which have been provided to him internally somewhere, somehow, they become, or they are likely to become activated of their own as well. And this phenomena is witnessed by chance, here and there, as freaks. So those freaks are happening regardless of people being religious or irreligious, in various countries here and there. And they are being recorded by scientists and studied by scientists. For instance, even in Russia, there is evidence of such things happening. If the author has not misquoted, then a German author who has written a book on this subject under the title ESP, he relates of certain experiments made in Russia on two people who were attuned to each other, and they were ultimately put as far apart as Leningrad and Alaska. And the messages which were given to one of them to convey to the other person who was in Leningrad were in the form of pictures and drawings. And a sealed envelope, which was also locked in a box, was sent there, and the scientists either on the other end were unaware of what was that. Somebody else had made those drawings, and that person was not permitted to come into contact with these scientists or these two persons. So according to the author, some of the drawings were, for instance, that of spade and scissors, pair of scissors and things like that. And some were paintings. And out of 4 times out of 5, that message was conveyed to the person many thousands of miles apart. And he was made to concentrate and do what he thinks he should do. So he started drawing, and the drawing he made was very close to those drawings which were provided to the sender at the other end. I also mentioned one of my own experiences here in London in one of the earlier sessions. That was very interesting. Before I ever read on this subject, that is way back in 1956, once I happened to attend an all-night party at Hampstead. And there the topic of, we were holding various intellectual discussions and this and that. So the topic of parapsychology and extrasensory perceptions came up. And they asked me, because I was obviously a religious person among them, so they asked me if I believed. I said, of course I do believe. And I believe in principle that something must exist, otherwise there was no machinery provided to man for receiving Allah's revelations and seeing visions. It is impossible for me to conceive of God's plan where He wants to convey things not using the ordinary radiation system, and yet He has not provided man with something. So I said, I do believe. So they said, if you do believe, then we want to experiment on you. You better leave this room, and somebody would take you to far enough so that you cannot hear what we are talking. And when we will be watching you, don't try to come near this room. After we give you the word, then you come, and we'll see if we can convey something to you or not. So after a few minutes, they called me in again. And they were sitting in a circle, holding hands, all of them. And they asked me to come and sit right in the middle, on the floor. And my shoes were fully laced up. In those days, the vocations were not in vogue as much. Most of the people used the laced shoes. So I sat in the middle, and they didn't speak a single word to me. And I also kept silent. I didn't know what to do. I was thinking of some words, some things, and nothing came to my mind in the form of verbal messages. But somehow, I don't know why, I started undoing my laces. And one after the other, I undid the laces of my shoes and then stopped. So one of the girls who was also present in the company, she shouted, "Do the rest." I said, "What do you mean?" And the whole thing was broken. And then they started blaming her. "Why did you shoot?" Because the message was that I should put off my shoes. And I reached so close to it, that I started undoing the laces. This is my personal experience. And many a time I have also experienced that thoughts of other people are sometimes conveyed to me without any media. And I know what he is thinking at that time. That branch is called clairvoyance. That I also noticed very strongly in my father. He was capable of reading our thoughts, not from expressions. He was not even looking at our faces. That so strongly he was gifted with this sense that we were afraid, to think and to always be on one's guard that we are thinking rightly. That is a very, very, very unnerving experience. But this happened, so I know from personal experience that it can happen. And this is why Hazrat Muslim has mentioned this phenomena apart from visions and apart from revelations. Not as an experience of revelation or vision, but independently as a human experience. So he says that during some of his early days before prophethood, it so happened that he was sitting in the room and he could, without seeing from the eyes, he could visualize the person who came for sweeping. The sweeper come and take that thing from there and that thing from there and put it in that corner, and leaving a thing behind, not being very careful about the sweeping. And knowing that nobody was watching me, it was a woman sweeper who was doing it. And she left a few things and did not remove them, which should have been removed. So Hazrat Muslim writes that he went out and saw, and exactly those things were lying there as he had seen, without eyes. So that was not an experience which he quotes as a vision. It was not a vision from God in religious terminology, not a message sent by Allah. But it was the same phenomena of nur being ready to light up. That was the state of his mind when he started receiving revelations and seeing visions from Allah. And also there was someone on the other end. Any other question? Time for one question now. Bashir Yatra? Now you can have the choice of asking a long question with a short answer or a short question with a long answer.